Hey guys, Megan here. Today I'm going to be discussing Louisa May Alcott's A Long Fatal Love Chase. This is one of her sensational stories. So as I've talked about before, Louisa May Alcott tends to have three kinds of stories. They are like her family kind of stories, like Little Women, her autobiographical stories, which could also include Little Women, but I'm more referring here to hospital sketches and Work, a story of experience, and then there are her blood and thunder sensational stories. A Long Fatal Love Chase is one of those. Now I'll just say right up front here, this will be a spoiler-free review or my spoiler-free thoughts on this book, so feel free to join in on the discussion if you haven't read it. So I went into this book with absolutely no expectations. I've read some of her other sensational stories and not loved them, so I was expecting a similar reaction. However, I did actually enjoy it. It kept my attention. It kept me wanting to turn the pages and find out what happened, even though I didn't love what the story was about. It was kind of icky what it was about. I was interested to find out what happened, and I did care about the main character. This story does live up to its title. Its title is A Long Fatal Love Chase. And this book, it did kind of go in loops of like, oh, this chase is still going. I mean, it wasn't a long book. I flew through it. But it was like, why is this chase still going? I know it's supposed to be long, but can it just end already? I didn't get to start feeling that till about 3/4 of the way through the book. So it was interesting, for sure. It was definitely captivating in a way. So basically what this story is about is young Rosamond Vivian. She is a young woman, very beautiful woman, and basically the book is about her being stalked by a man who is in love with her, Philip Tempest. And initially she is in love with him too, but that changes as he stalks her. And so that is why it is icky. I probably, if this wasn't Louisa May Alcott, I probably wouldn't have chosen a book about a stalker because it is creepy and it is something that obviously happens today as well as back then in 1866. So I wanted to talk about a little bit of background to this story. So as I said, this is one of Louisa May Alcott's blood and thunder stories. It is a strong departure from her autobiographical works like Hospital Sketches and Work, a story of experience, and it is nothing like her family stories like Little Women, Eight Cousins, Rose and Bloom, those ones. It is very, very different from that. I thought she did a surprisingly good job of this. I wasn't expecting, I thought it was gonna just be like completely unrealistic, and in a way it was, but it was entertaining in that way. So I thought to give you some background on this story, I would just read a little bit from the back of this book. The editor who put this together had a little chapter at the end of this edition that I thought was really interesting. So it says here, so Louisa May Alcott, responding to the specific request by a Boston publisher of pulp fiction, James R. Eliot, for a novel of 24 chapters in which each second chapter would be so absorbingly interesting that the reader will be impatient for the next. So that was the goal. She dashed off A Long Fatal Love Chase in August and September of 1866. So that was 2 years before Little Women had been published. At this point, she had written Flower Fables, like 15 years earlier. Those had been published. She had written them for Emerson's daughter because she was her babysitter, basically. So she had written them for her, and those were published. She had also, I believe, by this time written hospital sketches about her experience as a nurse in the Civil War. So she dashed off this A Long Fatal Love Chase, but interestingly enough, here, listen to this. The nostalgic reader who holds a memory of charming books with feisty but good little women and men, what Louisa herself referred to as her moral pap for the young, may be startled by the contemporary issues with which the novel grappled: a woman's right to be independent and free, the healing power of intimate female-female as well as female-male friendships, the psychological dynamics of abusive relationships, including the danger and trauma for the victim of a stalker, priestly celibacy, divorce, bigamy, suicide, and murder. So she really went for it. She's tackling some tough topics. And in fact, it was considered too sensational to be published at that time. So it was not published in 1866. This is why you cannot find A Long Fatal Love Chase on Project Gutenberg, or, that's why it's not in the public domain, basically. So in 1996, I believe it was, the editor, let's see, who is the editor? I'm trying to remember his name now. Let's see. Kent Bicknell. Kent Bicknell discovered the manuscript and edited it to be published. So that's why we have it today. Yes, it says here, James R. Eliot, who had warmly received Louisa's dramatic thrillers in the past, found the overall effect beyond even his much extended pale. For as the author records in a September 1866 entry in her diary, Eliot would not have it, saying it was too long and too sensational. So I put it away and fell to work on other things. So she put it away. Later, after she died, it was mislabeled as a different story, and it was forgotten about. It was basically misarchived, and it was only discovered in like the 1990s. And so here we have it today. I would recommend reading this one. I think it gives you like a well-rounded perspective of who Louisa May Alcott was as a person, even though she called Little Women, moral pap for the young. I still love that moral pap. Now, near the beginning of the novel, I was afraid that Louisa May Alcott was romanticizing the stalker in a way that the Phantom in Phantom of the Opera can be romanticized. Although if you watch the movie with Gerard Butler, that role is romanticized. If you watch a stage version, such as the filmed version of the 25th anniversary of Phantom of the Opera, he's not romanticized, he's creepy. So I was worried that Philip Tempest, the stalker in this story, would be romanticized. But about halfway through, I guess this is, it says here, he loved her, but it was a selfish love, and he was glad to see her proud spirit broken, for he thought that her defeat was his victory. So, in a way, it's kind of unmasking that romance, and it's being like, no, he's a stalker. We do not want our main character to end up with her. And so I was glad that Louisa May Alcott made that clear. So if you are worried about that, yeah, it's not romanticized. One other little fun note is that chapter 4 is called Rose in Bloom because Rosamond, short Rose is short for that. So that chapter is about Rose in Bloom. And of course, Louisa May Alcott later wrote a book called Rose in Bloom because this one was never published. So nobody would have noticed if she reused that title for a book title. So I thought that was interesting. She often talks about Mephistopheles in this as well. And she has another sensational novel called A Modern Mephistopheles. So when she was trying to get it published, after she got A Modern Mephistopheles published, she went back to this. She was trying to kind of minimize those references so she could still get this published. But yeah, it was never published until long after her death. So yeah, I enjoyed this book. It was a quick read. It was sensational. Do I need to read it again? Probably not. Whereas I will reread Little Women again and again and again. I don't need to, once was enough for me for this book. But it was enjoyable, and yeah, if you want an idea, like I said, of who Louisa May Alcott was as a person and as an author, I would recommend you read some of her sensational novels. At least one of each kind of her works, like the autobiographical, the family stories, and the sensational stories. So yeah, that'll be all for now. So may you all be filled with peace, hope, love, and joy. So take care, everyone. Bye.